Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Starborne Sovereign Space. For those of you joining me for the first time ever, my name is Sabouts, and for those of you returning, welcome back. What is Starborne Sovereign Space? It is a 4X MMO game, currently in development, and we are looking at the alpha version right now, as indicated by alpha test right here below the name of the game. Now, I mentioned 4X MMO. MMO stands for Massive Multiplayer Online Game. 4X is a type of strategy game. It's a sub-genre of the strategy genre. And the 4X's stand for Explore, Expand, Exploit, and Exterminate. And Starborne Sovereign Space does an excellent job at merging those two type of genres together to create a very, very unique game. I've never quite seen anything like a 4X MMO, and I'm very excited to bring this one to you guys. Now, this is my first time ever playing the game. I have read a few guides and I've watched a few tutorials, but I haven't actually jumped into the game and played it. So we'll be going through the motions of playing the game, and I'll sort of explain what I'm doing as we go so we can learn together. Now, another thing to mention before we get started is that I've reached out to the community, that being all of you guys who are subscribers of the channel or very usual viewers of the channel, and follow the Discord that I have for the YouTube channel. And I put together a team. See, this game has alliances, and the alpha runs for 12 weeks. At the end of the 12 weeks, whoever has the most sectors in the game, and by whoever I mean the alliance that has the most sectors in the game, wins the game. Now, we'll get more into a lot of that as we get started, but the biggest thing I want to note is that by reaching forward to the community and gathering people to play in the game, I've managed to put together a fairly large team, and we're going to form an alliance and play pretty aggressively and competitively over the next 12 weeks as we attempt to claim victory. I've roughly got about, I'd say, 12 people playing along, which means I'm open for 8 more people. So if anybody is interested, down in the description below, you'll find a link to the Discord server. So long as we haven't filled up the alliance to maximum capacity, whether you're watching this video after it releases or you're watching it a week from now, it's possible we will have filled up by then. But go ahead and join the Discord and express your interest in joining, and we'll get you in here and get you playing along with all of us. Now let's go ahead and get started. Enough is enough with all of that chit chat. We'll get into the server and we'll get our empire started. So like I said, this is very early access. It's early access essentially. It's an alpha, and it's very possible that we might come across bugs. Completely normal. Another thing to take note of is, I did mention it, I'm going to say it one more time. This is my first time playing the game. I have a general idea of how to navigate the menus, but I am no professional. If you came here to watch a professional, you are going to be gravely mistaken. But that doesn't mean that we might not pull off a victory, because we're all going to learn. We've got 12 weeks to get comfortable with the controls. Now, this is the server here that or the sector, I guess, or how do I break this down? So essentially, starting locations, right? We're playing in one giant galaxy, and there's 2,500 available slots for human players to jump in and play in the game. You can see these are the starting sectors. They essentially stand for the various arms in the spiral galaxy that we're jumping into. And we're going to be in Gemini because that is the place that we've all decided to spawn into. Now, the reason that we all pick the same place is because, like I said, 2,500 players is a very large galaxy. We wanted to make sure that we all spawn somewhat close to each other, because it'll make it a lot more easier for us to be able to do things like defend each other, supply resources to each other, help each other accomplish missions and tasks, and overall form our alliance. It gives us a goal. The Gemini spiral will hopefully eventually be our spiral. Now let's confirm and get actually into the gameplay. I don't believe I selected my character yet. I'm not sure if that's... Okay, it looks like that's going to be my character. And that is okay. I'm fine with just a random character. And here we are. Actually in the game. So first thing to take note of is it is a very Beautifully constructed game. I have to say it's very, very well put together in terms of the way it looks. We'll get into that here shortly, but let's take a look at the welcome screen, which I'll move right here in the center here. So welcome to the 2017 October Starborne Alpha. Thank you, Space Settler, for joining, and may your stay see the rise of a massive space empire. Tutorial video, a walkthrough guide of the first hour of gameplay, which you can also find on YouTube. You can look it up, or if you watch this series, it'll be somewhat of a tutorial. Not really, but I'll be playing the game as we get started, and you'll be able to watch me play and hopefully learn something from it. You can check out the release page, go to the subreddit. They also have a Discord, which I highly recommend. Great place to ask questions, and all sorts of other very useful information like the bug and forum. So you can also go to my Discord, just link in the description down below, like I said, and that's another place where you can ask questions or take part in the game. Now, here is where we started, and you can see here we start with one single space station. We've got a couple planets next to us. These planets are giving us various amounts of resources, but we'll get a little bit into that later. So taking a look, let's see if I can figure out. It's actually pretty cool. Pretty good looking there. All right, now let's jump out and take a look at the actual, yeah, there you go. Here's the actual galaxy. So we can see where we've spawned and where sort of everybody else is situated. So all of these dots here represent other players in the game. And then taking a look, here's the different arms going around. So a lot of stuff here. Now, jumping back in to our actual location, we've got a couple of different things we have to do, but first we probably should go through and actually talk about what's around us. So we've got all of our various inventory and movement fleets, all of our UI commands and such up there. Looking down at the bottom, a couple different ships which are stationed in our hangar. We have resource, which are down here. You've got your metals, you've got what do we got here? What else do we got? Metals. I believe this is gas and gems. I could be wrong about that. I was hoping it would hover over and see, but I had it a second ago and I lost it. Well, either way, yes, that's what you've got. And then down here is labor, which is used for various other things. Now, if we actually click on our station here, and we could take a look, and actually we could just do this, I believe, and click on it or not. Or actually we can, but I need to go ahead and hotkey that, like so. And that'll take us right to it. And we'll open up our station and have a look at that. So docking permission, alliance members, okay. Here's all of, yes, so there we go. Metal, gas, and crystal, yes. And then labor, which was important to mention. Various cards. The game does run off of cards, which is kind of interesting and unique, I think, to the setup of how they do it. So you can unlock cards through missions and such. Inside the station here, you can take a look. You can see this is card slots up here. We don't have any of these cards, obviously. Most of these cards are actually legendary or what would be considered more rare cards than your average card. Over here, unique buildings, which we can't unlock yet. But down here, we have a level 1 space station. You can see that these are the level 1 things that are available to us. These over here are buildings that you can just naturally build in level 1. So we've got ourselves some refineries, which will help us gain more materials per hour. We've got a metal refinery, a crystal refinery, and a gas refinery. Then we're looking at living quarters, which does things like helps us with acquiring more station labor, which is very important. Labor is used for manning things like ships and different types of buildings. And then you've got your warehouse, which just essentially increases your storage capacity of resources. And we'll get into that a little bit later on. But looking at the actual buildings here in the center, you've got your military buildings, domain buildings, industrial buildings. Now, this is the part where you sort of specialize yourself. Now, in the beginning of the game, it's not as important about what direction you want to take your particular empire. However, as the game progresses over the course of the 12 weeks, it'll be very important that certain people in the Alliance get very particular about what route they take. For example, I know that I want to go more military based, so I'm going to focus a lot more on military buildings on my stations, primarily attack. There's a few people in the Alliance who are going to go military, but they're going to focus on more defense. We also have people in the Alliance who are going to focus on more domain building, so things like focusing on influence generation and espionage. Coming over here to the industrial side, you've got obviously your resource harvesting section, and there's going to be people in the Alliance who are going to focus on harvesting resources and then can subsequently send those resources around to different people and help all of us out. So an Alliance needs to be a well-oiled machine to be able to operate. One person can't possibly balance themselves and have any hope of winning the game alone. The game is set up to encourage and basically force people who want to actually win the game to be in alliances, so they have to work as a team, which I think is really cool because it adds a level of team play there where essentially, every brick in the wall is what creates the wall sturdy, or every chain, has to be a strong chain to actually efficiently operate. So, like I said, I'm going to be focusing on military and attack. And there's other people who will be focusing and being in roles such as industrial production or espionage or defending or attacking and such. Now, another thing to really take note of is the fact that in the beginning of the game, it's not as important what route you take. Because it gets more specialized later on as you start getting multiple stations. So it's okay if we pick up some industrial buildings and stuff. In fact, it's almost encouraged and highly recommended that you do that in the beginning of the game. See, industrial and resources are very important this early on, so going through and picking a lot of that up is going to be very useful. Now let's get out of here. I did mention resources, and like I said, you got your metal, gas, and gems down here, crystals actually, I'm sorry, and then your labor. Now you've got a resource cap here. That means that you can only have 3,000 of every resource. Once you hit that resource cap, you will not produce any more resources, so it's important that you try to either raise that cap or stay well below it. So that way you're not getting just random resources and burning them off. Now this game is like, in the terms of you queue things up and build them, and they do take some real life time to build. Some of you might be familiar with that with different type of mobile games and such, but what's nice, and there's a lot to do in this game, so frankly you can stay pretty busy, but the game also caters very well to people who, like me, have a full-time day job and just can't commit a lot of time to a game like this all day, every day. And what's nice about that is if you want to be a little bit more casual, you can do that too. But there's room for both ends of the spectrum. People who want to take it serious and be real hardcore, and people who want to play a little bit more casually. Maybe you want to play it on the side while you're, working on something or typing up a paper for school, or maybe you want to have it running on another monitor at work. Don't tell your boss. But lots of cool stuff you can do. Now, the best way to really start out is to go ahead and start in achievements. Achievements will generally take you in the right direction because it shows you, has suggestions for what to do next, and sort of it gives you a rundown of what to do. So we'll go ahead and get started now. Before I actually really start getting into the thick and thin of this, something I do want to mention is that the series is going to be a little bit more different than some of the other series on my channel. So instead of having like a video all the time for this, they'll be a little bit more sporadic. They're going to come at irregular intervals essentially, and they're going to be, whenever I can record one and get one in, I may play the game without recording a few times, just if nothing's happening and I'm queuing up buildings or queuing up fleets. And then I'll record a few episodes to show everybody where the Alliance is at and where the fleets are at and what's going on. And it'll be more of kind of like, zooming out and talking about what's happening and everything instead of just a pure, hand holding. I'm taking you through the entire process because there's going to be some downtime here where I've got it running on another monitor while I'm doing something else, and I'm just kind of queuing buildings up. So that's something I really want to make note of because that way there'll be no confusion for future episodes. Now, let's go ahead and get started. We'll start with the achievements. The best way to get cards, you can see here that we'll get 2 cards if we finish this achievement, and it is building a production building. So going back to our station here, down into buildings below, these over here would be considered our production buildings. So our military, metal refinery, gas refinery, and our crystal refinery. Let's just go ahead and queue up the metal refinery. It really doesn't matter because as you can see, this is how many resources it takes to build, and this is how much time it takes to build. It takes 2 minutes and 52 seconds. The nice thing about this game is that if it's anything less than 5 minutes, you can rush it. So we'll go ahead and rush it and get our first building done. While we're at it, actually we'll come back to these. Let's go ahead and grab that achievement. You can see now we've got a nice little blue exclamation mark here, as well as off to the left-hand side, we have a build a production building achievement unlocked. We'll click on this and we can claim our reward. Now for this reward, we don't get any resources. However, we do get 2 cards. We'll claim them and then we'll take a look at those cards. The cards you can find in your inventory, you can see here we got Willie Gamish. So Willie Gamish, he gives us plus 20 metal, gas, and crystal resources per hour. Construction time for buildings reduced by 15%. He can be attached to stations with an influence level of 1, cannot be attached to stations with an influence level above 2. So more of a beginning character. Now what's interesting to note about this is that he actually, if you take a look down here in the bottom right hand corner, he actually only lasts 3 days. So after 3 days, this card will disappear. Now we do want to actually take and put him on an inventory or on our space station. I think that's a good idea. We've also got this one, Weather Crux, which is a station card. Increases the resource output of metal, gas, and crystal by plus 95 per hour. Can be attached to any station regardless of its influence. So that's pretty cool too. But that one only lasts 3 hours, so maybe worth holding on to until I actually have enough time to sit down and play this game, because right now it's 11 p.m. at night and I should be in bed because I got work in the morning, but we're not going to tell anybody. So we'll go ahead and probably save that card for later when I can actually sit down tomorrow and really dive into getting my Empire a nice head start, because I'm slightly behind the curve. The game released a little bit early in the day for me, and I wasn't able to sit down till later because today was my birthday and I spent it with family. So let's go ahead and go into our station. You can see here's cards over here. Now, if we actually want to go into, we've got the shipyard here. We don't want to upgrade our station, of course, yet. That would be kind of silly to do this early on, but we will do it in a little bit. It's cool. There's a lot of really cool stuff down here, which I think is pretty neat. If you get down to like the later stuff, it's fairly intense actually. Looking at it. But yeah, so we've got our structure slot, system slot, engineering slot, a character slot, and a rune slot. Now the character slot, you can see that Willie Gamish here, he actually can fill that slot. If we go into engineering slot, we don't have any cards for that. Same with system slot or structure slot. Now if we're down over here in rune slot, you can see the Wither Crux. That's going to work because it says right at the bottom it's a rune. But like I said, it's a 3-hour card and I'd be sleeping the entire time it was running, and we'd max out at 3,000 resources and then it'd be worthless. So we'll just save it for tomorrow for the next episode. But we'll go ahead and assign this card. And there we go. And we can see that we've got a nice boost to all of our resources. And they're actually highlighted slightly red, which is nice. Now, can I actually see if I wanted to? Okay, I was wondering if there's some way to break down and see how much of a difference it was making. I'm sure there is a way, but I just don't know it. Okay, well, either way, we've got that done. Let's take a look back at the achievements. We've got have 1 refinery of each type at level 1, so we can do that. That'll be pretty simple, especially because they are all going to build less than 2 minutes. You can only queue up 2 buildings at a time, so as you can see, there's 2 queued up ready to go. There is a card you can unlock. It is a very hard card to get, but it's possible to get it, and if you do, then you can do 3 buildings at once, which is a pretty big deal when you think about it, but let's go ahead and rush these. And there we go. So we've got have a refinery of each type at level 1. We can click on that and see rewards, Natasha Fair, and what appears to be an engineer. We'll claim those rewards and take a look at them right now. Okay, reduce costs of building and upgrading production buildings by 15%. Production buildings are, for instance, living quarters and metal, gas, and crystal refineries as +4 to freighters pools. Okay, so that's pretty good. And it's 4 days, but it is a character slot. And unfortunately, we've already filled our character slot for the next 3 days. So this card will not come in handy until later down the road. However, we did get the engineer card. Gives +30 metal, gas, and crystal resources per hour. Can be attached to stations with an influence level above 3. Level cannot exceed 3. Oh, cannot be attached to stations above 3. Okay. Engineer, and actually this one lasts forever, which is pretty freaking awesome. So we're going to put that on. That's crazy. I didn't even know that those kind of cards were in the game, but we've got it now and it's forever. So now we get 30 more per resource, which is very important in the early game. Hopefully we can get some more really good cards. Let's keep going. Produce a ship, create a new fleet, upgrade a station, discover a mission, upgrade warehouse. Let's go ahead and we'll save some of the fleet stuff for the next episode. I want to go ahead, though, and definitely upgrade, I think, the warehouse. This is going to be particularly important for someone who has a full-time job or is very busy in their day-to-day life. I know I'm extremely busy during the day. So, for example, after I'm done recording this and I'm done tonight, queuing up buildings or whatever I end up doing, I'm going to go to bed, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to go to work. I won't play the game for another, I don't know, probably, a really long time, 16 hours or so. So I'm going to cap out my resources very quickly. Building warehouses and increasing that resource cap is going to be extremely important for me. Queue that up, it'll take 11 minutes, so longer than the episode's actually going to run. But there we have it there. We go back into achievements. We can see we've got some other types of achievements. These are the tutorial achievements. So those are the ones that we were messing around there. You can see join an alliance right in chat, which are some achievements. Did we actually get something? Ooh, 100 prestige. And we've got exploration, perform scan operation, which we'll get into a little bit later, and expansion. So building a command center and having living quarters at level 10 and all that, all those things. Now, we've got this building, and unfortunately, we're getting close to the end of the time, so a few things I want to show you guys before we call this episode, and we'll jump into the next one here, talking about fleets and such, is if you actually take a look over here, you've got various hotkeys over here, which can be used for pretty important stuff. So this is the standard right now that we're in. So zooming out, you can see that we're just kind of looking around at the actual empire. Now, if you go over and click on exploration, that opens up a whole nother screen, and this is just simply for exploring, and you can find missions and all sorts of interesting things to explore in this screen. We're not going to worry about it now, but we'll talk more about that later and how that actually helps with us. You can see already kind of scanning over here, we've got something right here, see, and just kind of looking around. So very cool stuff. Now let's jump over into here. This is our resource screen. This is a pretty handy screen for quick information on where the good resources are. So actually taking a look at the planets right now that fall within our sector, you can see actually with our space station here, you automatically harvest resources from every tile adjacent to you. Now as your station grows, you can see that some people are harvesting resources from other various locations. And that's something that we would like to work on as well. But jumping into actually here, you can see these 3 planets are in our, you can essentially call it a sphere of influence. And we're getting some crystals from here. Over here, we were getting a little bit of crystals, metal, and gas. And over here, just metal and gas. And then labor on these 2, but not on that one. Now we have owner, marauder, head of command, an NPC station over here right next to us, which is interesting. And we'll have to deal with that a little bit later. We've also got what seems to be a good crystal mining location, and then very high labor over there. And some gas here. But aside from that, I don't see any metal except for off way over there. So this is an interesting start. And then over here we just have politics, which will come in handy later. It's mainly just for deciphering who's in what alliance and everything. And it's not really anything of that importance. So going back to the standard screen, actually taking a look around us, what do we got? So we've got Ketya HQ, okay. Snaggle Fox, all right, so that's a player. We got a player. We've got an NPC right here. Do we have any other NPCs? You're a player. Yes, okay. Another player. Okay, so actually a lot of players nearby. Well, the nice thing is hopefully a couple of these players will eventually fall off and they won't be as active. I'm trying to see now. There, like I said, a bunch of people from my Discord server and community members of the channel have already joined and created their empires. A lot of them are more up here because when the game released, they joined almost instantly. So most of them are actually all the way over here in these areas. But we'll go ahead and point a lot of them out later on. As I create the alliance and everything, I'll slowly introduce you guys to all of them. I'm just looking around to see if there's any of them nearby, because I know a few people who were joining right around the time I did, so I feel like there would be more people, but I don't see any, which is fine. Yeah, I'm not seeing any of them just yet, but I do know that a bunch of them are in the game, and I'll make sure that once I get the alliance created and everything, I'll point them out, and we'll be discussing battle tactics and everything. We have an entire group of people. We've been planning things. It's been a lot of fun. Okay, well, either way, I think now's a good time to cut it. We are at the end of this episode. So next time, like I said, we'll go over discussing a lot more different things, talking a little bit about the fleet system and everything. We'll mess with exploration and such, and start really diving into a lot of those things with the game. So with that being said, I want to thank you all for joining me. I do hope that you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you next time.